Nice guys finish last is what comes to mind when I think of Aljamain Sterling, and it's not that he's a nice guy, which he probably is in real life. It's the fact that you could do everything right, yet still not reap the desired result. Same thing with how when you were young, you thought if you were the nice guy, you were going to get the girl of your dreams, but it doesn't work like that. If you're the nice guy to the wrong person, you're just going to get taken advantage of, and Aljamain Sterling is a perfect example of that in a UFC context. There's a reason why he wins most of his fights. He's not going to trade with the best kickboxer. He's not going to release the body lock against the best wrestler. He's going to win in the most efficient way possible, and that is most likely going to produce a boring result depending on the stylistic matchup. Aljo versus Mafsar was on the prelims of UFC 310. Guess who was on the main card? Nate Landwehr and Kron Gracie, for crying out loud. How is that possible? Aljo versus Mafsar was one of the fights I was looking forward to most because I know how good Aljo is, and despite him moving up to featherweight, he was still going to be a huge challenge for someone like Mafsar, and he was. Aljo is a freaking good fighter. He has 3 title wins. I say 3 because the first was won via DQ in a fight that he was losing. But he made some improvements in the second fight, outstriking Pidillon. In all fairness, everyone outstrikes Pidillon in the first round. Marcus McGee, Aljamain Sterling, Sean O'Malley, Song Yadong. I don't know if it's because he's a slow starter, he's downloading information, or he just sucks in the first round. I don't know. You let me know in the comments. Then he out-wrestled Pidillon in the second and third round. In the last 2, he completely gassed out. His takedowns were getting stuffed, and Pidillon was piecing him up. But he still won the fight because he stole the first 3 rounds. And that fight was entertaining because both of them are evenly matched. Pidillon knows how to defend the wrestling of Aljamain Sterling. When you put Aljo against someone like Calvin Kattar, Aljo is just going to take him down, control him, secure the body lock, and hold on to it for the rest of the round, adding minimal ground and pound. Why? Because that's the most efficient way to win the fight. Calvin Kattar might be at the back end of his career, but knowing that Aljamain was moving from bantamweight to up to featherweight, it's not going to be an easy task for him. Calvin has some really good boxing. People look at his fight against Max Holloway and think he's washed, forgetting that he was going up against Max Holloway. Another fight that I regret watching and taking notes on was Aljo versus Brian Ortega. On paper, it's a wrestler versus BJJ practitioner, essentially grappler versus a grappler. Anytime that matchup happens, it's a striking masterclass. That is if they're both good strikers, but neither of them are exceptional. They're both competent, with Aljo having an edge. And even then, Aljo is not that powerful, he's not that precise, his speed is moderate, his technique is meh, his footwork is actually pretty good. He knows how to walk down his opponents to take them down or move laterally whenever he feels he's in danger. Brian, on the other hand, is flat-footed, he's slow, he has no pop. So this isn't a fight I would like to watch on the feet, and guess what I watched? I watched them strike for 4.5 rounds, and when Aljo eventually implemented his wrestling, it did look decent. He did land some zesty ground and pound, but in the 5th round, he managed to pop off on Brian. Overall, the fight was boring, man. Objectively speaking, it had to be boring. There's no way anyone can convince me that that fight was entertaining. Maybe for you, but not for me. And I enjoyed Khamzat versus Dricus. I genuinely did. I enjoyed that more than this fight. Why? Because Khamzat was doing what he knows best. No one wants to see Aljo strike. No one wants to see Brian Ortega strike. It's not going to produce the best result unless they're going up against someone who's also a good striker. But here's the thing, the fight needed to be boring if Aljo was going to take the path of least resistance. Why? Because on paper you have a BJJ black belt who almost submitted the greatest featherweight of all time in Alexander Volkanovski. Mind you, Islam couldn't even do that. In hindsight, Aljo probably would have been able to take down Brian early in the fight, but that would put him at risk of gassing out in the later rounds like he did against Pidillon, or even worse, getting submitted. And knowing that he's the better striker, it only makes sense for him to strike for a huge portion of the fight. Essentially, he fought the fight that he should have fought, and that I would have too had I been put in his shoes. Anyway, let me know whether or not you think Aljo is a nice guy in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.